So we've just seen JD Vance go to Greenland, and not only have we, of course, we've seen Trump's repeated insistence that they're going to have Greenland one way or another. They are going to have Greenland, but JD Vance also went and staked the US's claim to Greenland as well. And we should be very worried because out of seemingly nowhere, along comes Putin and the Kremlin to go, we endorse that. Now, why, of course, would Putin be endorsing this takeover of Greenland explicitly at the fact when a lot of the stuff that the US is talking about in taking Greenland aimed at security threats of Russia and China? Right? You wouldn't think all of a sudden Putin would be, pro the USA taking Greenland. However, remember this: right now, Putin is engaged in his own land grab, of course, in Ukraine, and he wants to egg certainly Trump and Vance on to go and take Greenland, because guess what? That then potentially in the eyes of the world, well, it won't, but in their, crazy worldview, that then solidifies his then claim on not only taking Ukraine, but as we've said, retaking the Russian Empire. And we're not talking like the USSR, we are talking like Imperial Russia. So we've said this before: Finland, parts of Poland, Ukraine, certainly into places like the Middle East. Bear in mind, or remember, the president of Azerbaijan said, yeah, when you said rebuild the Russian imperial holdings, you didn't mean us too, did you? And it was like, no, of course I don't mean you. So make no mistake, this is what they are. And you are also seeing a big movement in Russia, to retake Alaska. There is a big movement in Russia saying that we should retake Alaska. Like that is a real thing. And Putin has also said, well, if you take Greenland, then can we retake Alaska? I have to wonder what Americans might think to that, if they have any differences of opinions on suddenly handing over Alaska to Putin. But of course, it's part of that grand old imperialist transition on that. And always remember that was, of course, a big part of the plan. The idea was that they would take, of course, or at least they, again, at the time, we're talking like 18th century here, at the time that there was all this land that they could take. And of course, the colony that they set up in Alaska didn't really work out, didn't end up really paying back any of its dividends, was far too sort of expensive, a bit too far flung for them. And there were far more, shall we say, other pressing interests, not only, of course, the great game between us and Russia at the time, in the 19th century, quite a lot of, Putin's talking points almost echo a lot of what Russia was saying back then. There you go. But yeah, always worth remembering that point in history, and that this should be definitely pushed back against, because this is all about destroying what we have seen since the end of World War II, which is this international rules-based order. Because we are going back, or at least Putin and Trump would love to push the world back into this whole might makes right argument at that time. And remember, you go back to that time and there were a lot of wars. A lot of wars. Because why? Well, might makes right. And that is what they want to push the world back into. And there's even people talking about how Trump is really establishing this brand new Monroe Doctrine 2.0. And for those of you who don't know what the Monroe Doctrine was the whole idea was that America basically said, we do not want to see the European powers commit any more, um, you know, colonial or imperialist ambitions upon South America, even though they were already sort of there. Of course, there were parts, Britain owned, Britain, France, and the Netherlands owned sort of parts of the top part of South America, Guyana, and etc. Obviously, there's the Caribbean holdings that they still hold, but the Monroe Doctrine was like, no, you can't do this. We will intervene in some way, shape, or form. However, this new Monroe Doctrine 2.0 that Trump now seems to want to form is, you will do as we say. Hence why you are seeing a lot of these deportations taking place. A lot of that is to do with this. Now, has Trump expressed any territorial ambitions, shall we say, southwards? Not currently. He has expressed about stuff about Mexico and briefly, but he hasn't really talked about it too much. Like I say, he's mainly, of course, been focusing on Canada, Greenland, and of course the Panama Canal. But other than that, he hasn't really talked too much about Mexico. But if you are going to sort of re-insist and sort of rebuild this new Monroe Doctrine, maybe we would consider, taking Mexico. Canada's going to be the 51st state. Greenland is going to be the 52nd, and then we'll just take over. We'll just take over the running of Mexico. It won't be a full state, but we'll take over it. And of course, this goes back to plans during the American Civil War when the Confederates had this post-war plan that after they won their independence, they were going to create something called the Golden Circle, that they were going to go take Mexico. They were going to go and take all these, Caribbean possessions from the Spanish, and such. Retake all those, and they were going to sort of own this big thing, and it was dubbed the Golden Circle. Some of that does seem to have certainly slipped in and out of American ideas of the past, but I don't think Trump's going to sort of suddenly say we're re-establishing the Golden Circle, but definitely seems to be acting on the way of, this is my sphere of influence, the Americas. What I say essentially goes. Anywhere else, I don't care about. And we've talked about, of course, the great spheres of influence talked about before, because Putin, of course, big sphere of influence would be pretty much Eastern Europe and, of course, the Baltic states. The Balkans, of course. There is a lot of things we should be worrying about. And the fact that, Putin has come out and gone, you take Greenland, Trump. You go. You maverick, you genius. Go take Greenland. Because that's, as we said, furthers his own ambitions, would cement in his own eyes and in, the eyes, of his crazy world, that, he can just take, parts of Ukraine and take, of course, more parts of Ukraine. Remember, Putin is not finished with Ukraine. He fully intends to retake all of Ukraine. He's made that abundantly clear because he wrote this massive essay at the beginning when this war kicked off about all these territories that Russia should take back. And it wasn't just, oh yeah, we're just going to take this part of Ukraine. No, we're going to take all of Ukraine back. So make no mistake, Putin, and of course that crazy brand of stuff, because even if, shall we say, Putin goes, that will continue. like I say, that will continue. Someone will obviously take up the flag on this because, like I say, it is a big, thing in Russia. You see all the, pro Z stuff that you've seen some, well, should we say some of the braver, should we say, Russian YouTubers that have, fled Russia, constantly talk about, and the stuff that they've shown on that. So it is, of course, very worrying, but it is designed to, of course, undermine the current world order, because that is what Putin specializes in. So we should be once again very, very concerned, because if he's serious, of course, about taking Greenland, then absolutely we now have to take seriously his threats for taking Canada and Panama. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.